Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. In this video I will put the engine back in, but I won't film much of it. I will show you a bit of the stuff I have done before, and then I will take you on the journey of actually starting it up, or if something breaks along the way, because it's just a reversal of the video where I took the engine out. And also I'm in, as always, in a hurry because my A112 Abarth just dropped the exhaust system. So now I have no car, I only have a moped to ride. So I need this Porsche to be driving, hopefully in a couple of days. Let's see. So the engine mount on the right side of the engine is this. It's almost apart right now, but it consists of a rod, a rubber, and a spring inside. And the spring is in two pieces, and it's not supposed to be. So I went to try and buy a new one, but it's not just possible to get them just like that. You can get some solid one without the spring, just a bushing. But I think they will be better for a race car than an actual daily driver. But what I did find, and what I was advised by 924 enthusiasts, is to just change the spring, because that's possible to get. It's not cheap. But here we have it, a new spring. And I'm just going to fit that. The rubber is also supposed to be glued to this bracket. It's no longer, but because it's actually in normal resting position, just pressed against the bracket, I'm just going to glue it with some very strong glue, and then I think it will be just fine. That is, if I can get this whole spring out. There we go. There we go. And then I will just let the glue set. It's under pressure now, so I think it will be just fine. As mentioned, the rubber is compressed against the bracket when the engine load. So if it comes loose, it will only be when the engine lifts. And I actually think the spring will take that up. So I think this repair will work all right. This little thing in here is what started everything. It is really worn, pressed hard against the clutch blinds. It's a dead bearing. I'm just going to lightly grease this sleeve. It's always difficult to choose the right amount because you don't want grease on the clutch plate. You don't want the stuff to get seized either. There we go. I'm just going to grease the joints a little bit to make sure it all works fine, and then install the engine. And there we go. So I am tightening up the engine mounts. I have gotten in 2 bolts in the bell housing. Need to do the rest of them. Some of them are easier reached from beneath, therefore I'm putting the engine into the engine mount so that I can release it from the crane. It's went easier than I was expecting. I think I have been at it at an hour and a half maybe. It is always, for me at least, taking a lot of time to wrestle the bell housing and the clutch and all that together without being too hard on the stuff, and being alone and working with a crane that is sinking all the time a little bit. That's just the way it is. But yeah, it's going the right way at least. So this is it. The engine is back in the car, even the hood is back on. Actually, I did film quite a lot of the progress
but I have had a bit of bad luck with my equipment. This time I messed something up on the camera, so I filmed what ended up being a couple of hours of slow motion of me putting the engine back in and putting the injection system in and all that without sound. So I couldn't just speed up the footage and then make it work. It would just be silent. So all I'm going to show you from that footage is the actual startup, the first startup of the engine. Everything went pretty smoothly actually. Actually, it was pretty easy to get the engine back in. This engine is really simple. There's not a lot of sensors or anything like that. So it went pretty nicely. But when I went to start it up, it wouldn't fire. And I was a bit puzzled about that. I actually ended up rechecking that the timing was correct. Then I, of course, checked for spark. There was spark. I was pretty sure the fuel system was working for some reason, so I was more focused about the timing. But then it occurred to me that I could just push a little blast of starter fluid just to see if anything happened, just a little bit. It instantly fired up, and it instantly fired up for a very tiny amount. So I then knew that it was fuel related. And I think it turned out to be air in the fuel system. I thought that would purge itself pretty quickly, but what I ended up doing was to prime the fuel pump and then lift the air meter of the injection. It's a mechanical injection system. So when I lift up the air plate, the system thinks that air is entering the system, and thereby it will fire the injectors. So I did that a couple of times until I could hear that it was actually squirting fuel and not just air into the system. And then I turned the key, and this happened. So there we go, the engine is running. Let me just show you in real time and with sound. So apparently it's not really running yet, but now it gets fuel. I think this is now related to the cold starting. Because yesterday I got it to run and then it was hot and it was no problem to restart it. So I think that something is up with the cold starting, which is a pretty common issue on these. I'm just going to check all the connectors that they are secure. So it's running. There's still some adjustments to do. I realized that the cap for the distributor is the wrong one. It's missing the tab that holds it in place, so it can move a little bit from side to side. So I need to get a correct one for that. It's also a bit worn, so it doesn't really matter too much. But before that is in place, I don't want to mess too much with the timing because it will be imprecise. But it's running. Sounding nice, so I think everything is fine, pretty much. One step closer to driving this car. Now I just need to fit the brake calipers, fix the rear brakes, change the boot on the drive shaft, and then it should be ready. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.